Hello, my name is Daniel Underwood. Welcome to my garden here in Essex in the southeast of the UK. So the growing season is here and many of you are getting your gardens and your allotments ready for a great upcoming growing season and a great bit of productivity. So I'm going to take you around my garden and you can have a look at some things I've been doing and hopefully you can learn from that. Here in my 3 metre by 2 metre polytunnels, so we've got about 10 feet that way and about 6.5 feet that way. Now I'm growing strawberries in here, blueberries and also my peach tree. So one of the benefits of growing things like strawberries and blueberries in a polytunnel is the fact that it keeps birds off. Okay, of course the odd bird may get in and cause some damage, but in general it's a good way to protect them. Warms up really nice in here, so if the temperature drops outside, still warmer in here than outside. In fact, it really doesn't take much extra sunlight to warm it up in here whilst it's considerably cooler outside, so very beneficial for soft fruit. Now, the way I've got these varieties organised here is it's very helpful because I can water quite straightforward. So basically I can just come in with my watering can and water, so relatively low maintenance. I've weeded them already, so they're ready to start the growing season in a strength state, if you will, not so much to compete with also growing in the growing medium. So very convenient way of growing them. Now, varieties I've got, so I've got El Santa, which is a very commonly grown commercial variety, if you will. You can buy them in supermarkets. Firm fruit, travels well. Malling Centenary, which is also a commercially grown variety. You can often buy those in supermarkets. It was bred to basically have large strawberries but with good flavour, and Malling Centenary, check them out, excuse me. I also have Royal Sovereign, which is actually a Victorian variety, I think. If I remember correctly, it dates back to around 1892, but check that one out. Very nice tasting. They're compact plants and they're not heavy cropping. So if you want a heavy crop and you haven't got room for many plants, Royal Sovereign is not the one for you. But if you want an exquisite taste, then indeed it is. I also have Florence, which is a late variety, so that should be ready when some of the others have finished. Nice tasting strawberry. And Cambridge Favourite, which is a variety which is about 60 years old, I think. So a bit of heritage, a bit of new, and mid and late fruiting varieties. So I've got strawberries over a sustained period, so they should do very well. One great thing about growing strawberries is they put out runners which you can take. In fact, many of these I have grown from runners from other plants I've had myself, so they can be very economical. One downside of growing strawberries, of course, is it's taking up this space here, and when they're finished fruiting, that's it. So they can be space consuming for what they give. So you've got to take that in consideration. But of course what I can do is when they're finished, I can move these, put them somewhere else and utilise this part of the polytunnel for something else, which is another benefit of growing them in containers. Now blueberries, I've got an assortment of varieties here. I've got Elliott, Duke, Goldtraub, Spartan and Jersey. So I've got early, mid and late flowering varieties. Now with regards to growing blueberries, they need an ericaceous growing medium, pH of about 4.5 to 5.5. You need to give them this because that's what they thrive in. If you want good fruit, good strong plants, that's what you need. If you don't, the chances are they will fail. So of course if your garden soil is that, then put them in and they can do well. But in my experience, everywhere I've been growing blueberries, I've had to make sure that I give them ericaceous compost. You can either buy that or ideally, if you can, make your own. And what I also do is every 2 weeks give them an ericaceous drench, an ericaceous feed, which helps to acidify that growing medium, and that way you can get some good crops. So that's very beneficial. I found an organic one which I'm going to be ordering, so that's probably the one I'm going to be using for this growing season. With regards to both strawberries and blueberries, they are self-fertile. Strawberries in general are self-fertile, whilst blueberries can be fully self-fertile or partially self-fertile. So if you're growing blueberries, it's generally recommended you grow more than one variety in order to help pollination. So the bees are going to come in here and do their thing, and I'm expecting some great crops off of these. Now, with regards to the feeding of the strawberries, I'm going to be using this Doff liquid seaweed concentrate. So that's what I'm going to be using. Now, what I want to be using is an organic tomato feed because it's higher in potassium. Potassium is very good to encourage fruiting and flowering. So that's what I'm going to be getting. Now, once again, like the blueberries, it's ideal to make one's own composts and feeds, etc., so that you can provide it all, you know, be self-sufficient on your own feeds. But that takes time to get to. I'm slowly moving towards that. Of course, one cannot do everything, and these things all take time. So don't stress yourself out, and grow blueberries and strawberries, because they are absolutely lovely. This here is peach variety Dixie Red. I've owned the tree for about 5 years now, something like that. And before it's planted in the ground here, I had it growing in a 25-30 litre pot, and it did fruit in that pot. But I've had it in the ground here about 3-4 years, something like that, and it does very well. So lovely pink flowers here, so I'm expecting a lovely crop off of this. Now, to my knowledge, the majority of peach varieties that you're going to grow are self-fertile, so they don't need a pollination partner. This one certainly is self-fertile. So why am I growing it in a polytunnel? Basically to avoid peach leaf curl. That's why. I spoke a lot about it in the past, so I won't go too much into that today. But basically the way I guard against peach leaf curl is to protect it from winter rainfall. In fact, I protect it from rainfall all year by leaving it in here. Now, I don't feed this tree, I leave it in the ground, and it fruits lovely year after year. By growing this peach tree in this polytunnel, it's helping to protect these flowers from frost. So tomorrow night it's going to get down to about -4 degrees C, which is around 25 degrees Fahrenheit, so relatively chilly. So by growing this in here, hopefully these little flowers here will not get damaged by the frost. In this polytunnel here, it's 6 metres that way, so about 20 feet, and 3 metres that way, about 10 feet. So this is double the size of my other polytunnel. Now, got quite a lot of vegetables growing in here still, so covering this hungry gap, if one will, so that's lovely. Now, they're going to be going to seed soon, and these containers down here, I'm going to be growing my melons in them, things like that. So melons, aubergines, peppers, chilies. This really is going to be a warm climate simulation, so to speak, in here over the winter. So I'm hoping that's going to be quite a nice thing to do and get some great yields in here. Now into my little propagation area here. So I've got some lettuce here, and this is little gem cos. So let you look at those. Now, I planted them probably, oh there you go, look, I planted them on the 17th of February. So you can see the size they've made already, and these actually, I'm just trying to get one out of here without damaging them too much. There you go. Now that is ready to plant out. So something like lettuce, great to plant out at this time of year because it's frost hardy. Now, when you plant them out, make sure you put something over them to protect them, because birds would absolutely love to eat these delicate leaves. So that's little gem cos. So it's currently about 6 degrees C outside, which is about 43 degrees Fahrenheit. So relatively chilly, considerably warmer in here, and the plants are appreciating it now. Tonight -3 degrees C, tomorrow night about -4 degrees C, 25 to 27 degrees Fahrenheit. So relatively cold, but I have tender plants here. Now, I'll show you these. Now, this is a variety of tomato called Moskvich, apparently very vigorous, so I'm really looking forward to these turning into absolutely enormous plants and growing them up the back of this polytunnel, but I've got to get them to that size first. In fact, I've got to get them past this size first without the frost getting them. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to leave them in here. So we will find out if this method for protecting non-hardy tender plants works. So I've got peppers and chilies in here, cucumbers and tomatoes. So that lid is going to go on like that tonight, and we will now know if this is a relatively low-tech way of protecting tender plants at this perilous time of year for them. I've sown some beans. Now, dwarf beans here, variety tender green, they're a bush variety, and also some Scarlet Emperor runner beans, a red flowering runner bean variety. Now, these are not hardy plants. The way that I would plant them for success, if you will, would be to sow them around late April, early May in plugs, modules here in this polytunnel, and then plant them out maybe in late May, early June time. That way you're far less likely to lose them to frost. But I'm being a bit experimental here. We will see what happens. Now, towards the later part of last year, late summer, probably more around autumn time, I actually grew some dwarf beans here in this polytunnel and they did very well. So we shall see what happens, but either way, I'm not too worried if I do lose them. Obviously I'd rather not, but I will be sowing some other ones. So I planted them on the 28th of March. And these are the dwarf beans. You can see some have come up, and over here the runner beans, there, look, starting to come up there. Getting really excited about this growing season, as I presume the majority of you are, looking at the fig tree down there, the nectarine there, and the peach there, and all the greens around here. Lovely stuff. Now, please be aware that cold weather is coming, and they say don't cast a clout till May is out. So there we are. Now, your non-hardy plants are still at threat. So for example, you saw my tomatoes, cucumbers, chilies and peppers. I really should take those in tonight and tomorrow night, because as I've stated, it's going to get relatively cold. But I'm going to leave them down there in the polystyrene container, and indeed in the garden storage container down there, and we'll be able to see just how they do. So I'm doing that partly to experiment for myself and for you people, so we can think of ways of low-tech solutions to hardying our plants off, etc., without risking losses to them. Anyway, off to the allotment this afternoon. I'm working very much on bed prep at the moment, and I'm also putting down netting to help to keep birds off, so on hoops and things like that. So when I get time to go down there and put in things like them lovely little gem lettuces I shown you earlier, I just better pop them in. Planning and preparation, people. Anyway, have a good afternoon. If you like my work, please feel free to like and share, and if you'd like to be notified of any videos I've got coming up, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and the bell. See you next time. Thank you for viewing.